Sounds
Sounds
great.
great. Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and get my screen sharing, so just let me know once you see that come up. All right, did you guys
There
see
it is. Yep.
some reports, dashboards? We're good there?
Yeah, we got it.
Awesome. Okay, so this is the sales rep view for Incent when your sales reps log in. Right now I'm logged in to a demo account under Tony Smith, but this is what they'll see when they log in. You can see all these what we call pods, these reports. They're fully customizable to whatever reports you really want to be displaying to your sales reps. And the timeframes and terminologies are all customizable as well. So while these say booking margins and revenue, this would of course fit to whatever the Bucks are measuring this up against. So maybe we want bookings, but we also want this to show corporate boxes and season tickets sold here. We can have those measurements being measured for the sales reps to view. As you can see, when I hover over a pod, I get a little bit of a line by line breakdown. And really what we're going for at different layers of intensity is in the sales rep view, providing visibility, more communication for the sales reps, and then ultimately giving them more motivation from this dashboard. So to start with the visibility, as you can see, the drill down provides them a little more information onto what their attainment looks like. But anything in these pods that's blue means we can click into it. So for sales reps, I think one of the most important things is going to be commission to earn. That's probably going to be their most important factor. How much am I getting paid? And rather than have them spending their time working around reports and drilling down into these things on their own, we provide it to them right then and there. And so they can come in, see exactly how much their commission was paid out at, what rate they were supposed to get, what was the product sold, who was it sold to, just make sure everything lines up and they can trust the system's providing them with the right information. Now, let's say I go in here as a sales rep and I see that this first deal with Sterling Commerce was paid out 1%, and I know in my head, hey, that's supposed to be a 5% rate payout. I can dive into this deal a little bit more and then see what happened. And if I still am not satisfied with why I'm not at my 5% payout, I can go ahead and submit an inquiry. And what this does for the organization is it provides you with a way to give the sales reps a way to communicate with the rest of the team that's going to kind of instill some more trust, and they know their greatest concern, how much they're being paid, is being handled. So once I submit that inquiry, it's designated to a primary admin, in this case, whoever might be handling, issues with comp. They can go in, they can change the subject to whatever's fitting in this case, rate issue. They can come down here, it's pre-populated with all the deal data, and they can edit this with whatever their concern is, and why isn't my rate 5%? So once again, it just helps you with auditability. If there are errors, there's SLAs in place, so sales reps don't lose motivation when they see there might have been something wrong with their pay. They can trust that it's going to get taken care of and they will receive an answer. What do you have in place now as far as the system goes? If there is an error, I don't think when we were talking errors were a huge issue, but just how do they handle comps or submitting compensation questions in general now?
Yeah, generally. Oh, go ahead, Brandon.
No, go ahead. It's
Well,
gonna be
I
the
was just
same
gonna say,
answer.
yeah, right. Like in terms of we have the process set up. Like I send out reports to each of them that kind of detail their sales and what commission is coming from each one of them. And a lot of the time, if there are any issues, they just respond on that email chain to me and to Brandon. And then I have a subfolder in Outlook I put them all into and correct them on the next check, or if it's urgent, I'll do it on that one. So kind of a manual process, but yeah, I track most of it through Outlook.
Sure. So I mean, and it sounds like they know where to go with their issues. They know they get the report, and that's where they'll find the errors. I think here, like I was saying, I mean, everything's time stamped. It creates a more auditable record for what's going on, and just helps the sales reps. They
Right.
know exactly what the process is the value there. And I think that has a huge impact on motivation, just knowing that your concern is being addressed and there's a system in place that's measuring all this.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Then the last piece of the sales dashboard that I think is pretty impactful is just all these pods are designed to really motivate the rep through that visibility and communication. But as you can see, we can provide them with a report on their dashboard that's going to stack the sales reps. And sales reps are inherently competitive. They can come in here and they can see where they rank in terms of attainment. So if you're running an annual competition, with a trip as a reward at the end and only those top 5 get to know, they can pop in there. They can always see where they stand throughout the organization. Now, within Incent, you have the ability to customize everything. So if we just want the sales rep who's at play here, Tony Smith, just to see what his attainment is, we'll only show Tony Smith in this column, and this will be anonymous. And you can adjust all these other values as well to include them or not include them. As far as other tools to motivate them on here, we have a Plan Illustrator tool, which is really just kind of a light calculator for them to play with and see how their payout is impacted by their attainment levels. So in this case, we can see if this rep chooses to hit 1.75 million on their bookings commission, they'll get, or on their bookings, they'll get paid out at $17,000. But with the Plan Illustrator, they can just click change. And if maybe they're projecting to hit, we'll go with $2 million here, they can see the direct impact that's going to have on their actual payout. So in this case, they went from 17.4 to an additional $2,500. Just the idea of dangling that carrot in front of them and really providing them with that extra sense of motivation. What do you think about these pods so far?
Love the last thing you just showed us. I think that's awesome. I mean, probably be a millionaire if I had a nickel every time somebody was asking about, what if I were to do this or what if I were to do that? So
Sure.
For them to have that at their fingertips, I think would be really helpful and really impactful.
Absolutely. And there's other calculators in here for them to do that with, but I think this one up front, I mean, for myself as a sales rep, as soon as I start looking at a deal, I just kind of want to get an idea of how much is this worth. And if you have tiers or rates set up, all of a sudden, if they start to play with this and see that if they sold just $500 more worth of tickets that month, it might jump them from $1,000 payout to a $3,000 payout, depending on their tier or something. So, I mean, the benefit all around to them is they're going to get paid more, but it's still benefiting the greater good of the organization.
Sure.
And then, yeah. Another nice feature on here is you have all your docs as far as comp goes. I know as a sales rep, I don't keep my plan printed out in front of me all the time, but I do like to have it referenceable for you guys as leaders within the organization. You can route the documents to them from here. There's a workflow created where they can sign it and have it sent back to you. So you're not chasing them around, who signed it, and they constantly have it available to them. It's not just printed out, then taken away. The last piece on the sales rep side that I'd like to show is just in the My Incentives tab. This is really bringing all those components together, giving them full visibility into what's happening. So they don't have to sit around and ask those what ifs, where am I at, how much more do I need to attain? They can go to a full report of their payouts depending on whatever time frame we want them to see it in. In this case, they can see what their requirements are in terms of attainment by quarter, based on whatever metrics you want them to hit, and where they're at so far. And while this is great for the sales reps to see where they're at, it's even more impactful for managers and other leaders within sales to come in and check how they're trending and kind of prevent that crazy last month of the quarter, help train them to more front load rather than back load, because that's pretty much the standard in sales, I would say, is that we all wait to the last minute to try and hit our number.
Right.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So this is constantly available to them. And I think just between all these systems, you really alleviate any fears, questions, concerns about, is it accurate? They can see everything going through the system, and there's no doubt right there. The last thing I think worth mentioning about the sales reps view is while we're looking at this on an individual contributor scale, this really scales up the hierarchy to a manager level, director, VP of sales, however you want to organize your sales leadership. And between all those different steps, the reports will change to represent, are you looking at a team standing? Are you looking at team attainment? And it just helps the sales organization trend better and make better decisions throughout the quarter to get better final results. So what comes to mind just up front right now, overall with the sales rep view?
Nothing for me. The display and the interface and everything look great. And Brandon can speak a little bit more to, because he's on the sales side and interacts with those guys and stuff, to what kind of things they would want to see, if anything, in addition to this, or if this pretty much covers it or anything. But yeah, to me, this looks good. And kind of the only questions I would have would be more on the technical side. So Brandon, I'll let you, if you have anything.
I mean, if you want to ask those technical questions, I can try and answer them. And if not, I have them recorded and I'll get them back to you.
None of them have really anything to do specifically with what we've seen so far, but still just
Okay.
like, the kind of, some of the stuff I asked last time had to do more with like, just like we have the way that we pay out is kind of commensurate with like how the money comes in,
Yep.
in terms of like the paid amount. So just if there's like a way that we could kind of incorporate that, and maybe even those would be good to have like kind of graphical representations on those as well.
Sure.
In the same sense, like, maybe even like a ticker, like a gauge that we have up here for paid amount or something like that. So just kind of in general, like, customizability, I guess, and some of those things with that.
Sure. And I think that's totally possible. I mean, do you refer to those as holds necessarily when they're, only getting half the payment at one point in time? I mean, it's totally possible to include some kind of graphical representation of their holds, or just represent what their holds are looking like over in their payments so they can drill into those. But that's definitely within the capabilities.
Cool.
Yep. Brandon, did you have anything that you wanted to add as far as maybe what you're already doing or what would be great to have?
Thinking right now, there's definitely
Sure
something in the background of my mind right now that I could ask you. Give me a second here. So, what would it look like? Because that's one of the interesting things. I'm sure it's not too much different than other industries in the sales world, but when we get to, like January, February of the calendar year, we're more or less at a point to where we are launching the following year's sales campaign.
Okay.
And we're still finishing out that current season, right? So for about, could be anywhere from 3 to 6 months, really, depending on how deep we go into the playoffs, where we're kind of, balancing both, the current season and then the upcoming season that reps are selling for, overlapping and selling for both at the same time. So I guess how would this handle that? I mean, would there be an easy way to maybe just split that out so that you were looking at, the numbers for current season versus, this upcoming season? Because that's when we typically make those tweaks and adjustments on comp plans. And sometimes it even takes, like a month or two before we even get the comp plans in their hands.
Sure.
From start of when we actually, go on sale to some of the different people that have special priority to when they actually, find out what the full on details are.
Yep. I believe you could, as long as the data when the sale is completed happens is mapped towards, the following season versus that immediate season, it could be represented within here. And at the end of this, I'll show you guys quickly how reports are built out in Incent, and I think that might reflect just how you would map it to that as well. And I think also just looking at the admin side, where we just kind of quickly touch on building out plans and tracking the dates, that should answer some of that question too. Okay.
Outside of that, I mean, pretty much, it makes sense up front. I mean, I don't know that there's any crazy questions that I have to throw at you.
Sure.
I know that we've covered a lot of stuff in the last couple calls that we've had over the last couple months, but
Yeah, I mean, the
I
sales
like
rep.
the look and feel of it overall.
Yeah, it's meant to. I mean, we use the phrase the business user all the time, but I think the sales rep view is really supposed to be direct and easy to interact with, and reps just get trained to go there quickly and find exactly what you want them to find and get the answers they need. Because the whole idea is to prevent them from wasting time, doing this on a piece of paper, running around through their emails and other systems. They can come here, quickly do it, and there's no errors. So more time selling, less time spent tracking down the information they need.
And then I guess, another question I'd throw at you. What would this look like if we're, if me and Brandon Blagg are going through this process just to kind of double check, make sure everything's good, we haven't gotten any questions from the reps, we go to submit it to payroll, I guess, what are they seeing? Like, what's the all, rep report look like? Is that something nice and neat that
Yep.
they would be viewing to punch into our system?
And piggybacking off of that, you said you guys integrate with ADP, right?
Yes. So
okay.
We talked about exporting to ADP for payroll.
Okay.
Is that what you were getting at?
Yeah. I think it was basically how our payroll team would see the information for a submission. Like we send it over to them in an Excel file right now, but I didn't know if it was something that would be like delivered to them and then they would punch it in still in ADP, or if it was something that it could automatically update, or kind of what the process looks like there.
What I've learned is, and this may be specific to ADP, but we can automate your exporting the information to ADP so that you don't have to do that yourself. But it's one of those features that automating might not be worth the cost when it comes in terms of setting that up on our side. However, the system will it'll process this and the results, and you'll get a CSV file, which, I mean, or it could be exported to an XLSV file if you need it to be. So you can just export and manually provide it to them in the format you need, or, I mean, automation is a possibility. It just comes down to budget. Do you want to spend the money on something that might not be worth automating?
Right. Yeah, and I don't even know if automation would be something they would want to do with information like that anyway. They might like to have the human eyes on it once before it goes in, regardless. So
yeah, so you can definitely get a CSV or an Excel file out of this once you run the results through the tab and have that line by line.
Cool.
Yeah, and it's a little difficult to show without actually having it in the system right now, but I can bring you to the results tab and just show you where that happens. So we'll actually move into the admin tab. Are you guys looking at a screen now? I have my mouse on a organization tab, company, plan design.
We're still looking at the main screen on the dashboard.
Okay. I think I just changed it.
There we go. Yeah, you're good now.
Awesome. Great. So this is the admin view, and this is really where sales ops, finance at Brandon Lai, I think where you would be operating the most in here. This is where we build out the plans, calculate the results, really manage all the information that is coming in and out of the Incent system. I think the best way to approach this is just, we look at 3 Ps: plans, process, and people. For organization, that's where, I may have to log back in, guys. Sorry about that. We look at plans, process, and people. And the organization tab, that's where we cover anything to do with your people. So as you're adding new sales reps to the organization, would you say that the sales org there has pretty quick turnover? Is it slow, long tenure?
I would say the average is, with some of the more tenured reps that we have here factored in with our entry-level staff, it's probably on average around 2 years is what I think I looked at last time. Granted, there's some people that are way above and beyond that are pulling the average up, and there's some people that, on the entry-level staff that are gone after, 6 months, but yeah.
Sure. Well, it sounds like you're handling all sorts of cases from very tenured reps to, those 6 month short short ones and have to replace someone through
Yep.
the door. I mean, as you do need to bring on new sales reps, you would simply go into the organization tab, people, create a new person, and then input all of their information below, which, like I said, this is meant for the business user. We've got the little asterisks. You know exactly what needs to be done to create a new person who's going to get paid out. And we'll see this across everything we look at in Incent. But step one is typically to set up effective dating for everything you do. And I think what's great about that is it keeps track so that, you know, if someone gets a new title or gets promoted or whatever, that effective dating will track that, and it will take care of, you know, adjusting them into the right comp plan for you, rather than you having to go back and readjust formulas or recalculate their pay based on, you know, whatever it should have been for the effective date that may have had a position change or pay change, something like that. So Incent knows how important that is. Other systems such as Excel typically aren't sensitive to, you know, the concept of effective dating. So moving into just more the nuts and bolts of actually building out a plan. We start off, you can see we have quotas, formulas, rate tables, it goes on. You may not use all of these options up here, but considering that we have over 1,000 customers, I mean, we really see everything in comp plan. So the idea is that Incent is set up so you can use all of these, build out whatever you need to, you know, make your comp plans work. And of course, when we implement this type of software, we build all of this stuff out for you, but the changes can be made and you have all the options necessary. But just to look at kind of how straightforward it is to use, once again, if you want to create a new quota, you would simply come in, give it a name, select, you know, when it's going to happen, and then give it a value. If we want to give this quota, you know, $100,000 value, just simply input the number. Our effective dating is there, which takes care of a lot of problems for us. And then it's already given us our annual, quarterly, and monthly payouts for that quota number. You can change, if you wanted to front load your quarters, say, or maybe adjust them so that at the beginning of the season or something, that's when you have a really heavy plan, and then at the back end, it's a little lighter for your reps when ticket sales aren't as high. You can do that. It just has to add up to the annual number on the quota. Now, I think another major component of many people's plans are to create rate tables, which in Excel, I'm sure, Brandon, you're pretty familiar with creating, and I think, you know, are more than skilled enough to do so. But for someone like myself, who I would say is the business user, it's the same thing, just giving it a name, adjusting our creating our effective start and end dates, which I think when we start to include these with formulas is where the value really comes in, because it'll start calculating based on time. And then all we're doing is adding rate tier tables. And it's pretty simple. We can come in, go ahead and put 50 for this one, 0 to 50%. We'll pay them out at 5% there, then 50 to 100, they can go ahead and get paid out 10. And we basically have created a rate table that we can save and add to a plan. And you can continue to add rates and lines to these as you need and get as complicated or as, you know, wide range as you'd like. I think the next thing to look at within, you know, adding these tools to plans is our rules library. And this is where we've talked a lot about flexibility, being able to create spiffs quickly and easily. This is where that happens. So we have some pre-built out rules in here for, you know, examples purposes. But if we wanted to create a bonus just for a month, all I would have to do is go to the rules library, give this a name, so monthly spiff, create my bonus, choose my effective dating. We'll do it for 1 month. And then all I have to do is create the rules now, which in this case, if we wanted to do it for, we could say tickets. I'll create that one out for you. I would choose an order item. In this case, it would be a product, but we know for the bucks, that's going to be a ticket package equals corporate box. I've created my rule, and I just have to go down and finish out the results I want for this monthly spiff, which in this case would be corporate sale. And if we want to give them $500 every time they sell a corporate box, I'm sorry if that's not exactly the right term for that type of sale.
No, it works.
But you can see that every time they if an order item equals a corporate box sale, the result is that they'll get $500, and then you just have to choose their unit type, which in this case is going to be USD, and you've created a monthly spiff right there. How does that compare to the current process of creating spiffs or adjusting incentives?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of the same story. A lot of that we do just manual tracking in Excel through, if it were something like that, or if we were looking for a certain type of sale and we were doing like bounties off of that. So like we do with some of our contract pricing, like if we get someone that signs for a certain amount of time, I think like 3 or 5 years, we give a bounty on that, like a $200 bonus. So I'll go through and write some logic that counts those up for each of the reps, and then we'll apply those in whichever category, usually like in a bonus category. So
cool. Yeah, and
so same like general concept, but yeah, definitely I'd do ours in Excel rather than having like the nice user interface like this in a web portal. So
yeah, I mean, the interface is obviously, the idea is anyone can use it. It's meant to be easier, but I think just the fact that all of this data is recorded, tracked, and then if you ever have to go back and see when things were done or just overall audit it, you have it in a system that keeps it organized and really doesn't allow, not to insinuate you are making errors, but just it doesn't allow anything that doesn't add up to occur or end up in a finalized result.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I think to end the whole process, we would go to our results tab. And this is where, like I said, without any results in here, it's hard to really show you, but we can come in, we can see our commissions, search for them by plans. And then we can also go ahead and look at payments, which is that's where we would check the status of all of our groups and people who are being paid out. And this is where you would be, getting your templates from to send over to ADP for payroll. And that's, yeah, that's kind of just the overview of the admin side. I think you did just, kind of share with me your perspective on it. This is a little bit more of it's a little easier to use. The interface is a little more friendlier, but you're currently doing a lot of the same things just over in Excel.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, great. The last piece of the platform that I want to show you guys is the analytics and reporting, which we just leave the admin side, goes ahead and brings us in here. And I think the great thing about this is that any data you have mapped for your commissions, anything going into Incent around commissions, you can build a report out on. And it's super easy to use, very quick, and we know it's accurate because all this data is being proof checked through the Incent system. So what I like to look at is if we wanted to look at how much are we paying our reps out on based on product over a period of time, how much commission have they earned, we would simply go ahead and look for the data field, who are our people, and we would just go by person name and just drag and drop. We want to choose a time frame, we'll just look at the quarter. We then want to see what products they're selling, so we drag and drop our products. And then lastly, how much commission were they paid out on? From there, I'm going to go ahead and build the report out, which means I click results. And we've developed this report. I'm not sure, Brendan, how would you go about building reports right now?
So I take from our raw data set, I take some of the relevant information and I load those into a static file that I like each pay period, which for us is it's twice a month. Okay. So I'll take those relevant columns, I'll paste them in, and then I have like just a historical view of I put some. It's still in Excel, but I put some things in there that's pretty easy for the reps to use. Just some like slicers where they can choose from this date to this date, how much did I make, what were the differences, all that kind of stuff, and it pretty much accomplishes a lot of the same purposes. But like I said, just once again, kind of in a different format. So.
And I think like you were saying, so they can adjust through different time frames. If we want to make a pivot table out of this for you to get an overview, we're now just looking at Q1, then we can go ahead and dive through all the different quarters. It's all drag and drop. I mean, I think with the reporting, it's meant to save you time and build you out, the things you need very, very quickly. So
Right.
yeah. And that's, going back to what we were saying earlier, if we wanted to provide them with the information they need to see what might be a new sale or the upcoming season sale versus current season sale, this is where we would go to map that data and then build out the report that they need to see. And I think for our purposes, I mean, as the sales leaders and finance leaders, you guys want to see kind of the breakdown of this. But if you did want to give it to the sales reps in just some way that's going to grab them a little more, or maybe there's a presentation going on, all this data can be changed so that it fits whatever you're looking for. In this case, you can see lots of options to build out different graphs and methods of presenting it, or we can build out gauges for them. But it's really just one click and you're going to have the tools that you need here. So we've got Abe Drexler's commissions based on the different products he was selling in these different time frames, so you can really compare them, track them, and see what's going on.
Nice. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. And the whole idea here, like I said, it's saving time, but rather than, a process that might be a little more time consuming and really, really tactical down to the nitty gritty, this allows these reports to be built out quickly and give you the information you need just to see that holistic picture and kind of tell the story to the organization of what's currently happening, what's been happening, and how can we trend it or change that trend. So yeah, I guess that's, the overview of the platform right now. I mean, I'd be interested if you had some extra thoughts or, further questions on what we saw, if there's something I missed.
Yeah, this is really great. This is a lot more than I kind of anticipated. I thought that we would have a lot of use cases that wouldn't be kind of represented within the system, but it seems like you said, like, you guys have a lot of clients, and it seems like you kind of hit anything that we could throw at you. It's in there. So that's really cool. I think this looks really good.
Okay. Brennan, Locke, we talked, I think, a bit about the sales rep view, but
I think it's great. On the same page with Brandon Blagg here, so just a matter of us. Is there a way, just so we kind of have some reference points, since you're recording this, is there any way that you could forward it over to us? I don't know how that would work, but
sure, I'd be
okay.
happy to record it for you guys and send it over, and I'll cut it down a little bit when we get done. I'm totally fine with it being shared. Is there anyone specifically you want to share this with? I know last time we were just kind of speculating on what next steps would look like depending on how we felt, this overview went. I'm just curious, who else would you want to see it?
At this point, I was just thinking more so for our own sake, like, so we could kind of, like, as we're talking through this together, me and Brandon, if we could have something to reference back to, because I'm sure there's going to be something like, oh crap, what was that thing that he showed us again? So it'd just be nice to have that just at our fingertips. Ultimately, Brandon Blagg, you probably have a little bit better idea of ultimately who we're going to have to get into the loop. But I was just thinking more so for our own sake. Yeah,
definitely. I'll figure out a way to send this over to you guys. So
okay.
At this point, what do you feel makes sense for us to do next? I'll send this over to you, and then where should we go from here?
Brandon Blagg, do you have anything you want to say first? I've kind of got a little bit of an idea, but since it is kind of like in between like the sales realm and the finance realm of things, I think it's more or less kind of a conversation of figuring out, like, if we were to move forward with something like this, short term, long term, whatever it may be, what, budget would it fall under? Or would we split it between the two? I think that's probably one of the biggest questions that would have to be answered. But I don't know, Brandon Blagg, any insight?
Yeah, that's kind of where I would go to, is we need to kind of talk with everyone involved, like our VP of sales, SVP of sales, whatever, and like a lot of our finance team, and just kind of like get everyone in on the discussion and see if this is something that we were going to potentially move forward with. Like Brennan said, just finding out like who else is going to be involved, where is all of it going to land, how are we going to enact it, who's going to be, the point person, like all that kind of stuff. And then after that, once we got some of those things kind of lined up, it would be more talking about cost. And then at that point, like finding out with the budgets and where it was going to land, and basically then at the very end, like a cost benefit analysis and see if we would roll forward with it or not.
Of course.
So.
Yep. I think those are the conversations I like to hear that people are having after seeing it. Something I feel like is just worth mentioning on the price and budget aspect of it was that, while we do have like all of our list price set and implementation for, a system that's kind of at this level of complexity is usually reasonably significant. I just know the Kings, the partnership was, pretty important to us. And so I feel like there was additional flexibility brought into their deal as they developed the partnership with Exactly and gained the Incent platform, which I feel bodes well for anyone else really within the NBA organization as a whole. So I think it's just kind of something to definitely keep in mind as you're having those discussions, because to be honest, I have no idea what I'm even capable of as far as, making this deal happen if you guys wanted it to, in terms of incentives. So
sure,
that's a good.
How many? Oh, sorry.
No, that was all I was saying.
How many sports teams are you guys with? I know you mentioned the Kings. Is there anyone else in the NBA or in any of the professional leagues?
Would you guys care at all if I said we were just talking to a lot of NBA? Because a lot of them since that summit we're in the conversations with, but the only one that we're partnered with right now is the San Jose Sharks. So,
okay.
Yep, Sharks. I want to say the Sharks and the Kings are the only ones I can think of right now. If I find any more, I'm happy to reference them. But I think, Phil Horn, he's the SVP of sales for the Kings, is just such an advocate of Exactly. And so far it's been a pretty good project for him. And I think from what the executive who was working with him has told me, he'd be happy at some point to, get on the phone and just kind of chat for maybe 10 minutes about why they ended up doing this and how he feels it's going to impact their side of the house also. So if that was something we felt was appropriate, I think, wouldn't be too hard to make happen.
Cool. Yeah, that makes sense.
Definitely.
Yeah, I definitely think that there's a space at least in the NBA for this kind of thing. I mean, I think like what we've put together, even like with just Brandon and I and our Excel sheets, like we get a lot of attention on like I have people from around the league. They set up calls once in a while where they want to see our system because they think that what we do is really impressive, and like even what we have is something that a lot of teams try to replicate. And so yeah, that's why I was asking, is because I don't know anything on the pricing or on the implementation or anything along those lines, but I know that like just conceptually this kind of thing is something that teams talk about. So I didn't know if you guys were how many teams you guys had gotten on with. So
yeah, I mean, just the Kings from the NBA so far, but like I said, this type of partnership is definitely important to my organization. So I wouldn't be able to begin to guess what kind of flexibility I could get. It just might be more than what I'm used to.
Sure. Yeah. I gotcha.
Yeah. Cool. Well, guys, I think I don't know how soon those types of conversations happen internally and when you'd be able to get time with these people, but would it make sense for us to try and have a check-in like next week, or how do you want to go about that?
Let me see what I've got coming up.
Sure.
Yeah, we could set one for next week, and then if that is approaching and we don't really have much more information than we have now, we can push it back. But I think there's a chance that I don't know, Brandon, what all you have going on, but
no, I was gonna say pretty much the same thing. I mean, I think it's certainly realistic, but to your point, I mean, if for some reason we're creeping up on that date and crap, we don't have much to talk about, we can just push it to the following week. Say within the next couple of weeks, so we definitely should be due for another conversation with a little bit more info from us.
Okay, great. Well, I'll throw it on the calendar for like Wednesday and just try and send you an email before that, and you guys can tell me, hey, don't call, or call. We have something to say.
Sure.
Awesome. All right. Well, I'll send
All right, sounds good.
And thanks for your time.
Yeah, appreciate it. Yeah, we'll be in touch here soon, Spencer.
Cool. Thanks, Brandon. See you, Brandon.
All right. Have a good one.
Bye-bye.
All right, bye.